They haven't been able to ring that bell often inside Stade Saputo, but they get to do so tonight. CF Montreal beating Vaughan Azzurri 2-0 preliminary round of the Canadian Championship. Forge FC defeating FC Laval 3-0. We'll get to that in just a moment. But with these victories, this is what the bracket now looks like for the 16th edition of the Canadian Championship. We are going to have an all MLS affair in the quarterfinal. Toronto FC hosting CF Montreal. Forge have now moved on. They await the winner of Halifax Wanderers, Atletico Ottawa. So that will be an all CPL matchup. And then, of course, the other games we will bring you to, and you'll see how the quarterfinals will shape up in those other ones. TSS Rovers, Valor. We're going to be live here at 10:30 p.m. ET, bringing you that one from inside Swangard Stadium out in BC. All right, let's begin with Montreal, Vaughan. I said on One Nation, Jordan, that I was intrigued by this matchup because I thought Montreal was primed for the picking. Of course, the team that was expected to win comes out with the victory, but Vaughan had some chances there. They kind of made things a little squeaky, I think.
Omar Marzouk is going to look at this game.
Yeah.
And 50 years from now, he's going to say, hey, to his grandkids, that he nearly scored against CF Montreal. These two chances that he had were huge. If you put one of them away, Vaughan could dream. But that was just the difference of the day, Wheels, is that CF Montreal scored in those chances that maybe they shouldn't have, and Vaughan didn't capitalize on the chances that they had.
It's game of moments. And Montreal took their chances. Some really good goalkeeping, courtesy of Vaughan Azzurri. But in the end, Montreal were just better in those critical moments. And there were some openings. Look, valiant effort for a team from League One Ontario to keep an MLS side. And I know they're changed, but the second best team in the Eastern Conference last year, the fact that they kept the game 2-0, that's an accomplishment. Like, this is like a truly David versus Goliath story. It didn't play out like that, but this is kind of what we saw here. Teams in League One Ontario shouldn't be able to hang with MLS sides the way that things are today. But they put forward a really solid effort today. Remember, this was their second game of the season. The first game was like last week for Vaughan Azzurri. CF Montreal has been training and playing for months now. Just the fitness levels, there's a gap. The talent levels, there's a little bit of a gap. But I thought that Vaughan showed themselves, did themselves a lot of credit tonight.
When you look at this team, it's just like you got so close with Vaughan. I know it's 2-0, but if you just think about these moments, if they could have capitalized, it would have been beautiful for them.
Well, we're going to take a look at some of those moments. And, that's exactly what Carmen Asako said in our pregame interview with him. He's like, it's all about the moments, too, and that's what it is, right? The higher you go up in league, it's the details. It's those details that matter, Wheels. But this could have completely changed the complexion of the game because this was before Montreal scored.
He was through. He was past Rudy Camacho. Like, he was in on Ketterer. Just a heavy touch let him down. Right there at the end of the first half, I know it's 2-0, but 2-1, it's kind of game on. Raheem Rose missed a couple chances as well when really the CF Montreal side opened up and there were some chances there in the second half. If they bury one, I don't think that Losada maybe takes off Sean Rea, Camacho, some of the players that he did in the game. And then from that point on, it just seemed like CF Montreal were content to kind of kill off the game. They weren't really initiating too much, wasn't too much to speak of. Efficient from CF Montreal, let's put it that way. It was just a game they simply couldn't lose tonight. Really, they couldn't lose that as bad as things have been going. And now all of a sudden, they advance to the next round. They take on a rival in Toronto FC. So there's going to be a little bit of juice there. And that side of the bracket overall, Andy, is something else. CF Montreal, Toronto. And by the way, they played the game before that in MLS play as well. So a back-to-back between those two sides. Then you have Forge. And potentially, if they win this week, Atletico Ottawa, the two teams that featured in the Canadian Premier League final last year. So that side of the bracket is potentially absolutely loaded. So here we go, four really good teams.
Well, already you're going to have an MLS side eliminated heading into the semifinal for sure when you have two of them going head-to-head. But the thing is CF Montreal, they were patient in this one. Sean Rea, we keep talking about him being a CPL graduate. He's the one who gets the goal.
He's looking in form, and he's looking sharp. He was like this when he played for Valor in the CPL. Didn't need much area or room to really take off a snapshot. I've been on the end of a couple of those, and him turning or just getting the better players. But this one, that prep touch by the left foot was probably the highlight of the night because that's not easy to do. That's very difficult once it's deflected from the header. strikes that one very cleanly, and honestly saves his team, Wheels.
Some good young players tonight had really good performances. Sean Rea, one of them. He's 20. Sunisi Ibrahim, 20 years old. Rita Zuhir, 19 years old. Bryce Duke, 22 years old. Like, as much as I really don't like the direction that CF Montreal has gone, some of their young players, Andy, have the ability to become something. You just wish they were maybe a little bit more insulated with talent in the team so they can go out and without the pressure of the world on their shoulders every week. But some of these young players showed some real value here tonight.
Some of these young players are very good. It's just about getting the balance right with CF Montreal, right? It's unfortunate that so many of their older veteran players, their leaders, are out right now to injury, but you need those guys to carry the team. You need those leaders and those veterans that know the ins and outs to really help players like Sean Rea succeed.
And another positive thing, like they won their only game at home against Philadelphia Union. They win this game. If they can build up some kind of home form, then perhaps that is a route towards respectability.
And that's something we discussed in the pregame. You mentioned so many young players and what's happening in MLS, and you just start to worry a little bit about getting a little too complacent in a losing culture. How big is this win, especially when you mention the young players who played, were a factor in this? I mean, how badly did they need this?
Well, they needed to win. How big is it? Not very. They're supposed to beat a team from League One Ontario, right? They're supposed to outplay them. Like, this is supposed to be a no contest. But they avoided disaster, like losing tonight or struggling to victory would have led to even more uncomfortable conversations, I think. But because some of your young players did really well tonight, you advance relatively trouble-free, that could be nothing but a good thing moving forward.
I think even if Omar Marzouk scored, that would have been a detriment as well. The fact that they kept it to 0. And you could talk about the game. I think it was close. I think Vaughan it was a valiant effort from them, and they were just marginally off. Just missed a bit of creativity. Maybe if they played this game in a month's time, when they had so many games under their belt, it could have been a different result. But yeah, you look at the CF Montreal, you got to be happy with the result.
I'll tell you what, Catalano played very well for Vaughan, the goalkeeper. If I'm a Canadian Premier League club, I'm making a phone call. How is this guy not in the Canadian Premier League? In a position where sometimes you're questioning a couple of the goalkeepers in the league, this guy is absolutely good enough. A feel-good story and a young player who showed his worth tonight. That's the type of player that might be playing for something, and you may see him go to another level relatively soon.
We'll get into that because, we've often discussed as well the Canadian Championship being an opportunity for some of these League One players, Quebec Premier League players, kind of being seen by other clubs, in particular CPL clubs. And then, of course, CPL clubs, the players on those teams also want to move on to MLS, and one of them being Sean Rea, who's joining us now. Congratulations on the win and moving on to the next round in the Canadian Championship. You get the goal here tonight. But before entering this match, what did you really know about Vaughan Azzurri? How were you able to prepare for this competition?
Well, we didn't know much. Honestly, we just finished the game on the weekend, so short turnaround. So we didn't have much time to prepare. We just knew that we had to go in and get the job done, and that's what we did tonight.
Congratulations on the goal, Sean. Your first for CF Montreal. How does it feel to kind of get that off your chest? And you playing with a lot of young players, what does this moment mean for you coming out with a convincing performance here tonight?
Feels amazing. Honestly, this has been a dream come true since I was a young boy coming through the academy. I've always dreamed of scoring my first goal with the club at home in front of our fans, and I'm super happy I was able to do that tonight.
Sean, it's nice seeing you in a CF Montreal jersey as opposed to a Valor. I'm sorry for all the times that I've kicked you, buddy. But I've been asking many attackers this question. I want to know. I want to know your answer. What is your goal for this season in terms of goal contribution, assists? Like, what are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at how I can help the team score goals and assists. So that's my main goal as an offensive player. You just want to put as many in the back of the net and give as many chances to your teammates. So that's my goal this season.
Well, and looking at Major League Soccer, I mean, obviously your personal story, we love to see it and kind of being elevated and going through the ranks. But with Major League Soccer right now, how does a game like this perhaps help your confidence, maybe even try to help turn things around for you now that you've scored 2 goals here, you get the victory? How do you think that can translate, or how do you at least make it translate?
Well, it helps us a lot because obviously, as we all know, it's been a tough period for us, and just having this game in the middle of the week to help our confidence, like you said, is going to help a lot versus New York on the weekend. So we just got to get back to work and prepare for next game.
All right, well, Sean, once again, congratulations on the goal and the victory, and we'll see you in the next round of the Canadian Championship.
TFC, buddy. TFC up next.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you guys.
I think the smile on his face pretty much says it all. I mean, because they don't get to smile. They have not been smiling often. In Major League Soccer, 1 win, 6 losses. I keep mentioning, like, no draws, no points. It's literally a win. And that win was the only time they scored goals, you know, and really, and, you know, there's 6 losses. It's just not, it hasn't been great. So to see someone smile, that's why. I mean, what is this going to mean against New York? We have yet to see.
But from a personal level, the team, that will sort itself out. But don't you just love hearing him say, like, growing up in the academy, he's dreamed of this moment?
Yes.
Like, the young players coming through, and some of them go on loans, and some it doesn't work out. Every young kid that I've had come across with at the academy has the exact same dream of any of these MLS clubs, to go on, put on the jersey, play in front of a crowd, and have a moment like that. You know, like, to see the years of commitment and hard work it takes to get to that moment, then he gets to experience it. And that smile, that reaction, that answer was just so genuine and authentic, and you love to see it. That's what the Canadian soccer story is all about.
That strike, I watched him the first, like, 4 seconds after, and it wasn't just relief. It was like, hey, he wanted to be here. He willed himself. Yeah, pure joy. And you love to see it. Now, look, when he scored the strike, it reminded me of the times he scored against Valor, and I was like...
For Valor.
For Valor. Sorry. I was like, but the story you gotta love.
And I do want to go back to, speaking of stories, because you mentioned Catalano and kind of, you know, maybe perhaps catching the eye of some CPL clubs, because to me this is also part of what the Canadian Championship is about, is you see these other teams going up against, it's the semi-pro teams going up against the pro teams. Do you see this as also an opportunity to audition? Like, when you're a player, are you thinking this?
It is an opportunity to audition. Look, Gianluca Catalano, he was training with York. He had, I have to apologize to him, because my worst game ever for York, he was in goal in Edmonton, and we let, like, some of them were my fault, and we lost 3-0. That was his only performance, only time that he started. But this is a quality keeper, just without a home. I think Vaughn's lucky to have him. I know that he opted to play for Vaughan because he was going to get experience and play week in and week out. But for sure, he can be at least a backup, if not a starting goalkeeper in the Canadian Premier League.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's a position that it's not the deepest in the Canadian Premier League, and he's a young player. He did well. And hopefully that one look for York, playing behind this guy right here, hopefully it's not his last.
No, and I mean, he was under siege here tonight because obviously Sean Rea scored the first goal. Ibrahim comes in, scores the second goal. There were multiple chances as well, CF Montreal at the end of this game too. But what did you see happen here, Wheels?
Lassiter was involved here. This was back to basics for CF Montreal. Like, the defending nowhere good enough. No one closed down. Lassiter on the cross. 2 central defenders losing. Sanusi, Ibrahim, right in behind. But when Montreal even played their best last season, they were very good from wide areas. They played with the 2 inverted players underneath, and they used the width of the field exceptionally well. I haven't seen that as much this season. This is how they can generate chances. They do have some legs in this team. Maybe lack a little bit of pace and some of the athletic ability that they did before. But there's no reason why within this formation that they can't utilize the space that way. I thought it was a big step forward. And generally tonight, that's where their best chances were created.
And it's such a dangerous ball, right, Wheels? Like, when defenders, you have to run back of your face in your goal, and the ball is whipped across. Even if sometimes you wave your leg, it's an own goal. But that was the second goal is beautiful. You just put it in the area between the keeper and the back 4, and good things will happen.
Could have been a lot worse. Of course, the goalkeeper coming up with some saves in here, and that's where you started to see the difference, right? CF Montreal being that MLS side, and you just started to see Vaughan Azzurri wane a little bit. Although, I mean, still credit Marzouk, as you mentioned, he still had some chances there. They were able to still apply a little bit of pressure. They just couldn't find the back of the net, but at the end of the day, CF Montreal with 25 shots total, 11 of them on target, 65% possession. So they did what they needed to do, but at the same time, Vaughan Azzurri didn't get blown out. And I think that's what also stands out to a lot of people. It was a doubleheader tonight. Forge FC, the CPL champions, hosting Laval. Ooh, things got a little rough in this one. Forge coming away with the victory. We'll bring you those highlights next here on One Soccer. Let's take you to Hamilton now. Another Canadian Championship preliminary round game happening. And FC Laval with some early chances here, Jordo, against the CPL champs.
You got to score this one, brother. Like, oh, I just wish it maybe fell a bit more kindly to him. But, man, he's going to be thinking about that one all night.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. You didn't capitalize, but guess what? Forge, they're not going to miss.
Noah Jensen. Get to know this name, Canadian soccer fans. Scored on the weekend. No Kyle Becker again tonight. Jensen scored against Cavalry, the equalizer. Scores, well, his first of 2 in this one tonight. Wanderville Lefebvre just absolutely crushed Taryn Campbell.
I believe you call that the bulldozer. That didn't make Ashton Morgan very happy. This is the free kick, and that's the ensuing goal. You got to be careful. You cannot be giving up free kicks to Forge that close to goal.
This is what happens when you shoot on target. You get a bit of luck and you get a deflection.
Oh no, that back pass. And whoop, whoop. Taken out. I love the way that Pacius gets up, gets absolutely crunched. Nothing the goalkeeper could do left on an island. But I love this penalty. Where's he going to go? Right down Main Street, top shelf. I mean, Laval, they huffed, they Mr. Puffed. They did their best in this game. Great sponsor, by the way. Absolute class. But Forge, this team is legit, kids. I mean, I shouldn't have to tell you, you've been watching this team since their inception. Played class football tonight. There's rotation in the team. Campbell and Pacius didn't start on the weekend. Both started tonight. Man, look out in this competition in the Canadian Premier League. One of, if not the team to beat.
If they stay healthy, they could do it all. And what I mean by all, that's Canadian Prem. And they could do CanChamp.
Are you going for the treble?
I wouldn't say, you know what? I might say the treble. I might say the treble.
Say it. I want to make sure we get
it. I might do it.
No New York bias anymore.
Look at that. I'm with you guys now.
I am so nervous with the back pass. Can we? And I get it that especially a lot of teams now, they look for goalkeepers who are really good with their feet. They want. It's almost like that. It's not the sweeper keeper, but it's like you just have another defender back there when they look for goalkeepers who are good with their feet. But if you don't pass it back to them properly, I don't care if Messi is back there. You're not getting it. You're putting your goalkeeper in a position to just either mess it up. We've seen it on the women's side a couple times now with those back passes to Kaylin Sheridan. So it's either getting messed up in the back of the net or you're forcing the goalkeeper into a challenge that's going to lead to a penalty kick. I don't like it. It makes me so nervous.
I was always taught just put a bit more on it than underplay it, right? You'd rather overhit it. And then if in the ideal world, you're not playing it straight to the keeper within the goal frame.
It's a little offside.
A little bit off to the side because you know what? I've done a couple of these in my day. And we go and defend the corner as opposed to, hey, we either play it short and the keeper has to make a hero save, or you play it so hard that the keeper's fumbling on your goal line. Like,
man, when I started playing, we could pass it back to the goalie, you could pick it up. I know. But now the way the game is being played, most managers, most coaches don't need to pass it back at all. No back passes, no square balls unless you have to. This is your last resort. The game's played today much more progressive. Play it forward. Just take that element completely out of the game. I'd rather lose the ball with something that's in front of me as a defender. As long as the game's in front of me, I feel like I'm in control. Passing it back, you're losing field, you're losing territory, you're playing into the advantage of the other team. I just think that if you can play it out, that is far more preferable than playing it
I agree with you, Wills, because if a keeper's going to kick it and hoof it 50 yards anyways,
doesn't matter.
Might as well play it in the channel yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess every team to each their own, because I know they want goalkeepers who are good with their feet, but I'm talking about when you actually get the pass, and especially when you're taking on a team that has speedy forwards. You're just asking for trouble. You're just like tossing the ball into the fire. Good luck trying to get out of that. But with Forge, here's the thing. So they have to wait Halifax, Ottawa, whoever they're going to face there. I don't know if I want to jump ahead too much and say if they have to face Toronto
neutral
or Montreal.
Neutral site game, York Lions Stadium. So that's going to add a whole other level. That game's going to be played tomorrow night. Look out for Halifax. They're going to have a big crowd as they're playing in front of their new fans, the fans of Vaughan. The Wanderers, so it's kind of like a home game for Halifax.
Vaughan fans will have another team to cheer on right now. So Vaughan and Zuri are out, but now they'll turn their attention to Halifax Wanderers. So we're going to take a look at those matches that'll be coming up tomorrow as the preliminary round continues for the 16th edition of the Canadian Championship. Every game is a knockout game, and every game can be seen right here on One Soccer. Canadian Championship action continues tomorrow. Halifax, Ottawa, 5 p.m. ET. They played in the opening day of the Season 5 of the CPL. That one ended in a draw. So who will get the better of whom tomorrow? You have York United taking on the expansion side, Vancouver FC. And then TSS Rovers out of League One BC. They'll be taking on Valor. That's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Halifax, Ottawa, we saw them. Halifax striking first. Again, a team with a new coach. A lot of players being brought on over from League One Ontario, in particular, Vaughn Azuri, Ollie Bassett getting the goal for Ottawa. Who do you think, though, will actually come out on top tomorrow?
I think whoever scores more.
That's great. That is fantastic.
I feel that Halifax could have the home field advantage, and that could really set them in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think that it could easily be a nice little 2-1 game. The beauty about CanChamps is that a lot of these games could go into pens just because there's no extra time.
Sure.
So if it's 1-1, penalties, who's your best penalty kicker on the day?
I like Ottawa. I think they learned something. I thought the pressing was very good from Halifax. They're going to be a much improved team this year. But the fact that Carlos Gonzalez had a look, they played them on the weekend, they grew into that match, I think that can play into their favor.
I have no clue really what to expect from York United and Vancouver FC because your gut tells you expansion side, don't expect much. But again, the way the season started for York with that loss against Valor, where you really just didn't see an umph. I don't know. What are you thinking this matchup will be?
Can I say the pressure's on York already?
It has
to
be.
I mean, losing 2-0 to Valor in their first home game, bunch of injuries. If you play any team, if you could ask for any team in this competition, if you're York United, it would be Vancouver. The first time that they've traveled east, long travel, struggled at times over the course of that game against Pacific on the weekend. Still a little bit of an unknown, but I think this is the type of matchup that York would want. I favor them in this game.
The pressure is on York, and the way I look at it is if York doesn't start well, the pressure grows.
Yeah.
They might think that playing the game the 70th minute, if it's still 0-0, that they could still put them away and maybe tire out of Vancouver side, but hopefully they can get it done early tomorrow.
If Vancouver sits back the way they did against Pacific, I think they're asking for trouble. I just don't think that's sustainable, especially going up against players like Dero and Babuli. I think that could play into York's advantage.
Just for the sake of keeping it consistent, every time there's a minnow going up against a giant, I'm just going to say, is this the game we see an upset? TSS Rovers taking on Valor. Do we see it, Wheels?
Well, they're the one side, from a lower division that's playing at home. And we're expecting a good crowd. There's going to be a lot of support. I think Valor's an underrated team. I said that. I think I'm the only person that picked them to be a playoff team in the Canadian Premier League this year. And they were impressive to me. I rate Phil DeSantis as a coach. He's lived through the agony of defeat at the hands of a lower division team in this tournament before as one of the assistant coaches with Vancouver Whitecaps. I don't think that they make that, or he makes that mistake twice. I think Valor are for real, and I think they're going to win this game.
If Valor can take this thing out of the game, it should be a comfortable win. No disrespect to TSS Rovers, but what they have going for them is that playing at home, and if they can't really do that 1-2 punch, Valor should be able to
Isn't
take
this
it.
also their first game? Like, Rovers haven't played since August.
I think that we're all going to be winners, just to change, because football of this magnitude from a national audience being played at Swangard, it's like turning back the clock. Like, it's going to be a ton of fun to watch this game. A late one for people on the East Coast, make sure you stay up. And for people that are going to be heading out to Swangard, pack that place. Let's see what, TSS Rovers and League One BC are all about.
I think they will. I think
they're
it's gonna be a
excited.
blast. Yeah, a lot of history in that stadium for sure. And maybe we'll witness history tomorrow. I'm gonna keep on that until we see
calling it, aren't you?
A massive upset. I don't know. Well, I thought that we were going to see an upset tonight with Vaughn Azuri, but no, CF Montreal take care of business. 2-0 they win, and then Forge take care of business on their home turf, defeating FC Laval 3-0. They all move on to the quarterfinals of the Canadian Championship. We'll be back tomorrow to find out the other teams that move on to the next round. The 16th edition of the Canadian Championship. All the action right here on One Soccer.